Welcome to This Explainer. Now, as a sports historian, I'm absolutely fascinated by how games evolve. Today, we're looking at a truly wild phenomenon. We're going to trace how institutional rule changes, rather than just, organic skill development, actually forged the modern game of cricket. I mean, think about it. How exactly did a leisurely, unbound 5-day game transform into this high-speed, floodlit spectacle we see today? Well, let's treat the cricket pitch as our historical laboratory. What we'll see is that every single time the rule makers introduced a new format constraint, it acted like a catalyst. It literally sparked a total revolution in player strategy. Here's our roadmap for the journey. We're going to hit the birth of limited overs, that crucial 50-over pivot, the visual revolution of '92, format tinkering, and finally, the T20 era. Let's start right at the beginning with part 1, the birth of limited overs, and that first major leap away from traditional test matches. Look at this academic analysis here. In the early days of cricket, the primary focus was pure survival, just block, defend, and stay at the crease. But the second you introduce an over limit, it's a completely new ballgame. You couldn't just survive anymore, you had to score quickly. That constraint of time directly birthed entirely new, aggressive batting tactics. And that very first limit, it was strictly 60 overs. That was the magic number for the first 3 World Cups in '75, '79, and '83. Now, aesthetically, it was still super traditional. We're talking daytime matches, red leather balls, standard white uniforms. A faster game for sure, but still steeped in tradition. But that era culminated in a massive, historic shock. 1983. Underdog India absolutely stuns the mighty West Indies. As squad member Sunil Valsan notes here, that victory completely changed the passion and trend of the sport. It triggered these immense commercial benefits for the BCCI, which, as we know, completely altered the sport's global power dynamics down the line.
Which brings us to part 2, the 50-over pivot. This is where things get really interesting, because the tournament finally moves outside of England. So it's 1987, and the World Cup moves to India and Pakistan. And guess what? Geography literally dictates the rules. You've got this simple environmental constraint, shorter daylight hours on the subcontinent compared to those long English summers. So rulemakers were forced to permanently shave 10 overs off the game. Bam! Every match is now 50 overs per innings. Now, 10 fewer overs means 10 fewer overs to build your innings. As the academic literature points out here, this new 50-over limit directly gave rise to what we now call power hitting. Batsmen simply couldn't afford slow starts anymore. They had to go after the ball right from the very first delivery to maximize their score. All right, moving to part 3, the 1992 visual revolution. We're heading down to Australia and New Zealand, and the game is about to get a radical makeover.
As a historian, I love looking at the artifacts, and there's no better artifact than the cricket ball. The switch from red to white wasn't just so people could see it under stadium floodlights. In ODIs, you have the 2 new balls rule, one from each end. That means you've got a newer ball that swings more, seams more, and pings off the bat way faster. It created early danger for the batsman, absolutely, but also massive scoring opportunities. These 92 innovations just threw the old playbook out the window. Now, Kerry Packer pioneered a lot of this with World Series cricket in '78, the coral pink and wattle gold kits. But by '92, colored clothing, white balls, and day-night floodlit matches became the global standard. And those strict fielding restrictions, total game changer. Captains had fewer boundary riders early on, forcing bowlers to be laser precise and practically begging batsmen to smash it over the infield.
Part 4, format tinkering and the Super Sixes. Commercial appeal is exploding globally, so rulemakers start getting really creative with the tournament structure.
Following our timeline, you see this crazy snowball effect. We go from just shaving off overs in '87 to swapping the colors in '92, right up to the super complex structural formats of the late '90s and 2000s. The ICC was constantly adjusting the geometry of the tournament. Quarterfinals added in '96, the complex Super Six stage in '99 where points carried over, then back to quarterfinals in 2011. Why all the shuffling? Well, it was specifically designed to maximize television audiences. They wanted high competitive jeopardy to ensure the biggest, most profitable teams stayed in the tournament as long as possible. To survive these grueling tournament formats, captains had to evolve. You couldn't just casually rotate your fast bowlers anymore. You had to become a master tactician. It meant hyper-nuanced field placements and deep data analysis to exploit those fielding restrictions we talked about. Every single run saved out there in the field became just as crucial as a run scored with the bat.
Which brings us to our final section, Part 5, the T20 era and modern tactics, the ultimate constraint. We are talking about a mere 120 legal deliveries per team. The pressure is just off the charts. Notice the shift highlighted here. Extreme constraints meant teams needed highly specialized attacks. Fast bowler or spinner wasn't specific enough anymore. You now had specialists drafted exclusively for the death overs, or certain spinners brought in just to exploit very specific pitch conditions. It's the ultimate proof that extreme constraints breed extreme innovation. Batsmen literally invented physics-defined shots, like the ramp or the switch hit, just to find new ways to score. And fielding? It morphed from a secondary chore into this high-flying, highly athletic, data-driven science. The spectacular boundary catches and runouts we see today would have been downright unimaginable a few decades ago. So we've seen how every single institutional tweak, from over limits to ball colors to tournament brackets, creates an entirely new breed of player and tactician. Which leaves us with a pretty massive question. As analytics keep advancing, what rule are they going to rewrite next, and how is it going to shape the future of cricket? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer today, and keep your eye on the pitch.